Thank you for staying here watching Holy Land Uncovered. I'm Tal Heinrich. Our next stop today is Gush Halav, a village in northern Israel known in Arabic by the name Jish. It has a long history which goes back to the Roman Empire era and the Great Jewish Revolt. Today it is home to hundreds of people from the Aramaic community, the Maronites. Let's take the tour, beautifully shot by our cameraman Ran Schneck.
It is a small village in Israel's Upper Galilee. It holds some fascinating stories from the Jewish, Muslim, and even Aramaic cultures. The place called Jish in Arabic, or Gush Halav, the Hebrew name for piece of milk.
Daniel, why is this place called Gush Halav, a piece of milk?
So it's an excellent question. We don't exactly know why this place is called Gush Halav. It's a very interesting name. And there's two common assumptions for the reason why this place got the name Gush Halav. One is right behind us over here. You could see this white cliff that is sort of very milky. And we're not far away from a mount called Mount Dalton, which is made out of a volcanic basalt, very, very black stone. And north of us is an area that's very, very green, a Mount Meron. And here in the middle, you have this area that's very white. So maybe that's why this place got the name Chunk of Milk. Another assumption is that the same way that we call Israel the land of milk and honey, right? A place that has good value and has good production that comes out of its soil. So we know that in ancient times, Gush Halav was an empire of excellent olive oil and excellent wine of the grapes that grew here, and maybe that's why it got the name Gush Halav.
Gush Halav's history dates back 3,000 years. Archaeological finds here include a unique mausoleum and burial caves from the classic era. Roman historian Josephus mentions the city in his book The Wars of the Jews as one of the strategic points used by the Jewish rebels during the war against the Romans in 77 CE. It was the last Jewish stronghold in the area to fall to the Romans after the fall of Gamla. Josephus describes a local wealthy olive oil merchant who became a chief zealot commander in the Jewish revolt, John of Giscala.
John of Gush Halav, John of Giscala. What do we know about his story? He is associated with this place in which we're standing, an ancient synagogue.
So John of Gush Halav, I would say he's the celebrity of this place. He was a very, very wealthy Jew. He had a lot of properties in this area. And at the year 67 AD, a Jewish rebellion starts against the gigantic Roman Empire. And he decides to build a wall all around Gush Halav to protect the city and to rebel against the Romans from here. In the meantime, the Romans go city by city, take over the city, kill everyone living in these cities in Gamla and Yodfat and in other places. When they get to Gush Halav, Titus, the general, he comes on Shabbat. And John of Gush Halav asks him, please, to respect the Jews and not conquer the city on Shabbat. Titus respects him. Shabbat enters on Friday night, and John and 2,000 of his men flee out. They run out of Gush Halav. And on Saturday night, when Titus comes in to take over the city, he finds out that John ran away. He starts running after John and his soldiers. He kills most of them. John makes it all the way to Jerusalem. And when he gets to Jerusalem, he becomes one of the leaders, one of the heads of the rebellions against the Romans.
The village is mentioned in the Mishnah as Gush Halav, a city surrounded by walls since the time of Joshua bin Nun. It used to be a prime location, associated with some of the most iconic figures in Jewish history, and especially with the ancient Jewish court, the Sanhedrin.
What can you tell us about the Sanhedrin?
So the Sanhedrin was basically the main Jewish authority that was in charge of anything that has to do with the rabbinical law that the Jews live by. So for example, who decides whether this animal is kosher, this animal is not kosher? So you take the book of the Torah, and then the rabbinates sort of process what they read in the Torah and create rules that apply all the Jewish people in the world.
Nowadays, Gush Halav is predominantly Catholic with a Sunni Muslim Arab minority. The village is home to some of the Aramaic refugees who fled their homes at two other sites in northern Israel, the villages of Bir-Im and Ikrit.
What can you tell us about the Aramaic community of this village? What happened to them following the establishment of the State of Israel in 1948?
So, Gish is today an Aramaic village or Maronite Christian community, the only village in Israel. But if you were to come here before 1948, you would find two other villages with Maronite Christians. One of them was called Ikrit, the other one was called Bir-Am. They're actually not far away from here. In 1948, in September 1948, Israeli army forces launched what's called Operation Hiram, which Israeli soldiers fled into the lower Galilee and later on into the upper Galilee. And there was fighting against local Arab villages. There was an army that was volunteers, Muslim volunteers that were fighting against the IDF. In a village called Ikrit, the population, the Christian population, was told to leave their village, and they were promised that one day they'll get the chance to come back. That happened 70 years ago. Most of the people from Ikrit were sent here to Gish and populated this village, and today this is the only Maronite village that we have in Israel.
Today there are 3,000 residents in Gish or Gush Halav, many of them from the Aramaic society, like Yusuf, who welcomed us into his house.
We are here, great people, all together, Christians, Muslims, together, living side by side with no problems between us. I'm very happy because I play for a musical group here with Moroccan and Tunisian Jews in Hatzor. We are all very happy living our lives here, in the village, in this country.
In the late 19th century, an earthquake killed hundreds of people in the village. With its small population, Gush Halav remains a place of mystery, history, and disputes.